In 1462, Vlad the Impaler launched a devastating night assault in an Ottoman camp looking to conquer Wallachia, as he led one of the most horrific episodes of psychological warfare in history. 20 years prior, Vlad, his father Vlad II and his brother Radu the Handsome were taken captive by the Ottomans after his father went to show his continued pledge of loyalty to them, only being released after the promise of a yearly tribute and not to support the Ottomans' enemies, otherwise his sons, who remained in control of the Ottomans, would be executed. However, only 5 years later, Vlad II was murdered for his support of the Ottomans, and now Vlad the Impaler, who had grown up in the Ottoman courts with the future Sultan Mehmed II, was placed on the Wallachian throne with Ottoman support. However, he was ousted only after 2 months, before being put back on the throne 8 years later after a few years in exile. Vlad got rid of his political enemies in some pretty horrific ways, because you don't get the name Impaler by being good in the bedroom. However, the Ottomans probably didn't really care, as he had probably learnt all that stuff growing up with them in their courts, as they also did some pretty horrific stuff, as long as he continued to pay the yearly tribute agreed by his father. By 1459 though, those payments had dried up as Vlad still needed to secure his throne, and he had become disillusioned with his childhood captors, and Mehmed demanded he come to Constantinople to pay what was owed, but Vlad said if he left his lands that would invite the Hungarians in to take them, and he would pay when he could. Mehmed's spies told him otherwise though, as apparently Vlad was in negotiations with the Hungarians for an alliance, so high-ranking Ottoman envoys were sent to Vlad in late 1461, but given secret orders to trap him, capture him, and then bring him back to the Sultan. However, Vlad's spies told him about the trap, so he ambushed the ambush, defeated it, captured the envoys, and then impaled them with their turbans nailed to their heads, before launching a devastating raid across the Danube River into the Ottoman territory, looting and burning everything they could find, covering roughly 800 kilometers in 2 weeks. In his sadistic ways, Vlad kept account of everyone his men slaughtered, stating to the Hungarian king in a letter that it was 23,884, not including the ones that they burnt in their homes, and at the end of his letter he stated, "Thus your highness must know, I have broken peace with Mehmed." Quite possibly the biggest understatement in history, and upon hearing the news, Mehmed was rightfully absolutely fucking fuming, abandoning the siege he was currently at Corinth and sending messengers to all corners of his empire to assemble an army which was second only to the one that conquered Constantinople at roughly 90,000 troops. Despite requests, the Hungarian king offered Wallachia no assistance, as Vlad ordered mobilisation of every abled body aged 12 and up, including the woman, as his motley crew of roughly 30,000 peasants, including a few trained cavalry, were outnumbered almost 3 to 1 and vastly out-equipped, and they couldn't take the Ottoman army head-on, so they set up for a guerrilla war. Vlad struck the Ottomans as they are at their most vulnerable, crossing the Danube River. However, the crack troops of the Janissaries managed to dig in on the other side of the bank, bring their cannons forward, forcing the Wallachians to withdraw, and Mehmed, in reward for their hard efforts, distributed 30,000 coins between them, which was around 3 years of Janissary pay. The war of attrition had begun, with the Wallachians adopting a scorched earth policy, burning crops and villages, placing dead animals in water supplies to poison them, making artificial marshes by the riverbank to slow the Ottoman advance, and digging pits with sharpened stakes in them to catch any unsuspecting cavalry. It was said that after the Ottomans crossed the Danube River, they advanced for 7 days with not a soul or animal in sight, and there being nothing to eat or drink. And it was an unusually hot summer as well, that it was said you could cook meat on the Ottoman chainmail, and as the exhausted army continued to march forward, they were constantly harassed by the hit-and-run tactics of Vlad's cavalry. As well as the constant paranoia of being captured for the next victim of Vlad's impalement, biological warfare was also used by the Impaler, as he got people with lethal diseases like the plague, dressed them up as Turks, and sent them into the Ottoman camp to spread those diseases, as it seems like every strategy from the playbook was used to break the Ottomans' morale. As the Ottoman army advances towards the capital of Targoviste, Vlad makes one final throw of the dice in a night attack on the Ottoman camp in an attempt to cause maximum confusion, while he strikes at the Sultan himself. It was even said that Vlad was in the Ottoman camp the day before dressed as a Turk to survey the situation, as he launches his night assault with the cavalry charging through, slaughtering anyone they can find. However, after the initial confusion, the Ottomans managed to reform and push back the assault. Contemporary sources paint a differing picture of how successful the attack was, with some suggesting that Mehmed actually ran from the scene before being pulled back from his commanders, and others saying that Vlad got confused and struck at the Grand Vizier's tent instead of the Sultan's. However, at the end of it is said that the Wallachians lost only around 5,000 compared to the Ottoman 15,000. Even with Ottoman morale at breaking point, they carried on towards the capital, where they were left with a lovely surprise, with over 20,000 people impaled on spikes, sparing neither age, gender or nationality. In one of Vlad's most famous episodes of cruelty and Targoviste, the gates were wide open with no one to be seen. Radu was installed on the Wallachian throne, with Mehmed and his broken army making a quick exit from the scene. Unable to defeat the Ottomans, Vlad fled to the Hungarian king looking for help to regain his throne. However, he was captured and then imprisoned for the next 13 years, although why he was imprisoned and what happened in those 13 years are still unknown.